Hi, I'm Sir Santilli, and just wanted to get a few things off my chest. Have been meaning to say those things online for a while now, but many things happened. I got busy. So before I start my new job, I want to take the chance to do it now. The first thing that I like to talk about is the status of the failed, mostly, Our Big Book project. So, as a recap, I received a 1,000 Monero donation last year to do the project for 1 year, and I have done it mostly. So that was about £100,000, and more or less equivalent to 1 year's salary that I would have had at the time. I have already made a text post about this, but it felt like such a large donation deserved a little video. So yeah, in summary, I did not get a single user for the project except myself. This is somewhat expected. There are two things that I could have done. One is better tech, and the other would have been actually going after users by making content. Perhaps I should have done content, but I did just the tech. Partly because I'm a nerd and afraid of human contact, a little bit laziness perhaps as well. But the tech features were not easy, and I do feel that some of them were fundamental, and maybe in the future, one day, they will actually lead to the project actually taking off. Maybe. In terms of tech, I have focused on improving the Our Big Book website, which is the component of the project where it's intended that multiple users would collaborate on any subject that they want. And it's basically the major innovation of the project. So Our Big Book Web has become much more stable, and some of the features that I wanted that felt really cool and necessary, I've done them. I've also done some which were more experimental and took more time than it should have taken because everything's harder than you think. But I did them, you know. Everything is harder than it seems at first, and I greatly respect web developers. Every time I have a web development experience, it greatly increases my respect for web devs and my hatred for them for making such shitty frameworks at times, but also my respect for, yeah, it's not easy making a dynamic website. Besides the dynamic website, yeah, I have also improved a little bit the static website generation. I do feel that Our Big Book is a very good, at least for me, it is. I made essentially the perfect way for myself to take notes. I do think that was achieved, and also the static website generation is exactly what I wanted, and the way you take notes is exactly what I wanted. And one of the major points which I wanted and I think I achieved is the ability to kind of have one table of contents with all their knowledge, infinitely deep table of contents, and where you can just go on and go deeper and deeper and deeper. Oh, it's a nice apple. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper into any subject that you want to any degree. And I do realize that part of the project's failure is that this is such a niche desire that very few people, I imagine, want to take a subject and rip the heck out of it, you know? Just document everything there is to document on the subject. But this is what I want, and for quite a few subjects. And doing so for free, you know, so this is a niche thing. But I knew that from the start. And it's what I've all heard, and that's for user-generated content. There is a very small number of people who generate a large amount of content and a huge value. So I knew that the question is finding those people and convincing them that you have the best platform for them to do that, which so far I have failed. But yeah, there is hope that one day I'll manage to convince someone. There is hope, we'll see. So that's a summary of kind of what happened. I was doing the tech features, and I didn't really directly outreach to university students, which have been the primary that I had in mind, the primary niche users that I had in mind. Yeah, and basically to acquire them, I would have had to, I think, help them study for the university courses, which is something that I would still want to try and do. Because, yeah, the whole reason for me doing this website is when I was at uni, and at school, I thought it could all be so much better and better explained, you know. So I do think it would be, if I didn't need money, I might actually do that, you know. I'm really kind of burned out of doing tech features. If I had more time for the project, I don't think I'd do any more tech features immediately. I would really focus exclusively on building a community. And yeah, I would give this a serious try, which would be of the likes, you know, find go to a nearby university, which I have. I'm currently in Oxford, but I'm moving soon. And then find decide for a course, and then like mathematics, physics, these are the obvious choices. And then help pick the course and try to help the students do the courses and learn the courses as well as possible. I did research this a lot, like what would be the best course to go after. And at least in Oxford, the mathematics course seems like the easiest choice. The main reason is because of how open it is. They're putting all their lecture notes and exercise sheets online more and more. And that is something to be very respected. And in some cases, even the solutions, they're starting to, upload solutions themselves, which would somewhat compete with what I would be doing. But I do believe that with an exclusive focus on helping the students, we would be able to create better educational content. So, and that's what I wanted to try, like exclusive focus on the students, which is not what most faculty have. Of course, they have to do research and they're extremely pressured for novel results. So, yeah, I do think if I had more time, one more year, it would be worth giving that a shot. I think it is risky business. Part of me also feels that maybe I'd be wasting my life and I could be doing something better as well. But I don't think it's something that has ever been done. Some students have, taken amazing lecture notes and tried to cover as much as possible. But I do believe that being a student, you're already under so much pressure to pass the bloody exams that, you can only do so much. So someone external with a deep interest in the subject and a deep empathy towards the students trying to do that, I'm not sure it has ever been done to the level that I might be able to do. So it is an interesting experiment. So I did go to the Mathematics Institute of the University of Oxford, I'm very grateful for them being so open. They have a cafe downstairs, and you could go into the lecture room if you wanted, watch some farces. I'm kind of old. I think they look weird at me, but I'd get away with it, I think. So I do get, somewhat access to the students, and I did work there many, many times. So I did get to their movements and understand more which courses they are taking, but I didn't directly reach out to them. The bar is quite high, but they're smart. So I would need something quite good not to be, so they don't think I'm completely weird and worthless. But it could be met, I think. And if you had met that bar on a course, I would want to try and advertise it. I don't know how, it is a difficult question. But yeah, I mean, put a note in front of my laptop. Here's a solved version of this course X, link to it online. Any question, talk to me for free. I don't know, they have hundreds of students. Maybe one or two would pick it up and see that I'm amazing. Who knows? It's just a bit of a Hail Mary, but it would be worth trying. Another thing that I should mention is that I have my personality is being lazy. I am the lazy guy that Bill Gates talks about that should get the hard task. So I never push myself to burnout ever. And that has ups and downs. What it means basically is that I just keep doing the thing if it's interesting for a long time, and whatever I have a deep interest on, eventually I get it, but it's not fast. So yeah, it's not like I was doing the project 12 hours a day every day, but I did do it seriously. But I also, sometimes had to take time off to look after my family. Another thing that I did, which detracted me a little bit from the project, was a few small, not so small side projects. It is a bit ridiculous that I should do side projects when I'm doing basically my dream project, but it is, it's also part of my personality. And yeah, but I just had to do this kind of thing. Otherwise, I get too tired of the given subjects. One thing in particular that I did was pushing the CIE covert communication websites research a little bit further. And that did reach had a web article on the Daily Mail. So I think it was worth it, to get my name out there, potentially reach new people. But yeah, I was always conscious that, I should be getting back to RB Book now. I was just, in this case, I was doing that project a little bit obsessively because it felt that it was something actually big and novel. And it is, I do believe, one of my most important contributions to the world so far. So I think it was worth it. Time will tell. And as for the future of the RB Book project, so immediately what's going to happen now is I'm going to start a new job quite soon. And don't plan on doing any major features or content in the foreseeable future. I will keep the website running, and I plan to keep it running for as long as I leave. It costs currently, I think it's $16 a month, so I can handle that. And and I will continue to use RB Book as my primary, note-taking and publication mechanism. I'm flexible in the sense that if there's another place where it's better to publish things, where it will be seen, more likely to be seen, I will use that and perhaps just link it to it from RB Book. But for broader subjects, which other websites such as Stack Overflow and Wikipedia don't cover well, which is basically the gap that RB Book was intended to fill, then the bulk will go into RB Book. So this is the immediate future. We'll see. Maybe one day I'll pick up some university courses here and there and try to solve them and see if it generates some interest. But not planning on doing that immediately. I'm going to be starting a new job, and I want to focus on that. About the new job, it is, still low-level tech. I will be moving out of Oxford, but the new location in the UK is also home to a major university. So that does open some doors potentially. It's not very likely, but there is a potential that this could help. About potential future donations, which if someone is crazy enough to donate to a failure such as me, yeah, as I have clarified on text posts, I cannot accept anonymous donations anymore, as I have for the 1,000 Monero donation, which is a shame, but it's the way society works. And yeah, there's essentially no way of preventing money laundering if you allow anonymous donations. In my case, for example, sometimes I think, wow, like if I were a drug dealer and I just donated this money to myself, I'm currently getting away with it. you know, I did program a lot and I have lots of GitHub commits. If you don't think a drug dealer would have been able to, but I did get away with it so far. And yeah, as I made a text post about, Barclays finally, they had frozen my account for a week earlier. Then I started diversifying my accounts like crazy. And much more recently, they said, okay, no more anonymous donations or else we'll kick you out. And yeah, so I don't expect that to be different for any other British bank. So yeah, at least for the time being, while I will accept donations, I will not count them towards, if I get X, then I do Y calculations. I should also mention that, yeah, although the amount that I received was, amazing and extremely generous, and I'm extremely thankful for it, and equivalent to 1 year's salary. Of course, so when you do a failed project like this, it does put you in a worse position than where you started off, financially a little bit. So, for example, my new job will be paid 10% less than my previous one 2 years ago. So yeah, I do take a little bit of a hit, and I have a family which I have to take care of, right? They're amazing and they have supported me to some degree. So yeah, so that has to be taken into consideration. So I wouldn't be able to take any more like 1 year's salary, right? It has to be much more. So it's yeah, this is something that has to be considered. So it cannot be anonymous, and it has to be more than a year's salary. I don't know how much. And yeah, just besides the money, there's also the great employees' confidence in hiring you, because if you're really good and you might be getting more money to do something, I might work for them for a while and then leave, which of course understandably is not great for employers, because bringing people up to speed is a considerable cost, and I understand that. But so yeah, asking for donations online does take a hit on your employability. This time it was somewhat tough, I'd say. I didn't apply for any job. I only went for things which had some degree of interest in, which is low-level tech, low-level semiconductor tech, basically. But even within that, which have various levels of qualifications depending on the job, it wasn't easy. I got like a lot of rejections. It's hard to quantify this kind of stuff. But I do suspect that this played a role. I have been asked, oh, would you leave us if you should get another donation? And I said, yes, if it's enough, I will leave you, obviously. as with anyone. But in my case, there's a greater probability that this will happen. Yeah, so these are things that have to be taken into account. Another contributing factor to the difficulty of job search is that, yeah, I think a lot of the world's resources have been pulled into LLMs. I do think there's some merit to that. I am quite excited about, LLM usage in mathematics and really trying to achieve AGI. I do strongly believe that we already have enough computational power for AGI. Yeah, so what I call, and I think others might call, the hexaflop hypothesis, that once you have, hexaflops of computation, that's enough to simulate the brain, because, how many neurons you have, times how many synapses each neuron has, times how many times per second they fire, and that has an hexaflop. So yeah, I do think there's certain merit to going there, maybe into novel architectures, not just LLMs, but I'm not qualified in that, and yeah, no one gave me a job on that. I did apply to some companies. I do feel that companies are very they can only evaluate how many years of experience you have and what's your university. They are not able to evaluate, your projects meaningfully. So this is also, which is something that I have, right? Being a top. This year you likely end up in 18 or 17 year user on Stack Overflow, for example. That's a notable achievement, I would say. But most recruiters don't take that into account. My current job did, actually, so I'm very thankful to them. It's not the most exciting thing ever, but it is good enough, and there is a genuine degree of interest in doing it. I've concluded that what I really need is I'll insert here now the name of there's this American fellowship which pays $800,000 for creative people, but they have to be in the US. But that sounded like the right one for me. I should also mention that if you want to make things easy, you could just donate I can retire type of donation. I will do exclusively open projects until I die, open STEM projects until I die, if that happens. Half joking here, but I mean, I would do that. The exact amount is a tough question to depend on taxation. Maybe 4 million to be very, very on the safe side. So after tax too, housing prices are crazy right now in the places where people want to live. 1 million pounds per house, and then 1 million to invest in S&P 500 and live forever. That's kind of the goal. Another financial remark, semi-jokingly, but is that I also feel kind of bad falling behind my peers financially a little bit. I'm not desolate, but I'm falling behind the hardworking peers that need perhaps more money than me. It's kind of sad. So yeah, moving forward, if I get any free time, which is not likely in the immediate term, but maybe as I settle more into my job, I would be interested into looking into some higher tech things. And what I'm most passionate about, I think, would be trying to achieve AGI, or a little step towards it. It's just too mind-blowing, the fact that we might be able to actually achieve it in our lifetimes. It is just too mind-blowing. This was my broad intention. Since I was doing my undergrad, in 2012 and 13, I made some choices toward the direction, but I didn't push, hard enough. I also made some choices toward GPUs in 2015, 16, but again, didn't push for long enough / hard enough. I'd be retired by now if I had. So, yeah, but what I mean to say is, of course, there's this AI boom, which kind of piques my interest as well, but I do have a genuine interest in that area, which kind of predates the current AI boom. Just I didn't push it hard enough as maybe I should have. Got a little bit distracted with education, which I'm also extremely passionate about. Within that area, two aspects which I'd like to research on are, one is maths and code generation, because it does feel that my job is dumb, a programmer's job is dumb most of the time, and it feels so automatable, and there have been major progresses. I haven't fully evaluated all the code generation mechanisms yet, but the general feeling is sometimes you one-shot problems and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad. But others, and for more complex problems, which involve more internal data, which the model has not been trained on, for those, they fail, and once they fail the first time, they can't move forward, so you end up wasting more time trying to prompt than you would if you were just solve the problem yourself. But I do believe that there's, even for not very useful things like pure mathematics or Project Euler problems, coding / mathematics computational problems, I do feel that there's an extreme beauty into automatically solving that, and it is definitely a way to measure part of our progress towards AGI. I would also be interested in doing more robotics-oriented things. I I did consider applying for jobs in the area, but again, no one hired me because I have zero experience. But yeah, I have done a little side project on that, and yeah, I do have a gut feeling, like many other people, that maybe having some robotics intuition in your models is going to be key towards AGI. I don't know, maybe not, but feels possible and worthwhile exploring, you know. So this is another area which, through simulations, because who wants to deal with real robots, right? That's for losers. So with simulations mostly, I think that'll be very exciting. I'm also quite excited by the potential of doing ArcAGI problems. I won't have the time for that, unfortunately, but yeah, it is quite intriguing to me because it does feel like some problems which are very easy for humans to solve, untrained humans, essentially. Maybe high school, standard Western high school students, but still computers are struggling to solve them. So yeah, solving ArcAGI would be also pretty cool. But on the other hand, also there are so many early retired finance and big tech bros doing that already that I don't know if I should compete with them, but it is a worthwhile pursuit, I guess. If I were to ever do any more tech for the RB Group project, which is not what I would do initially, I don't believe that any tech, as you add AGI to it, is going to be enough to attract users by itself. But if one day I were to add more features, there are two major outstanding features which would be quite cool to implement. They're not rocket science, but they are considerable, which is what you see, what you get editing, and being able to pull changes back. So WYSIWYG would be, you know, both a local and a web. Maybe something like Trillion Notes. I find that project extremely interesting and feature-wise, so many interesting features. And yeah, maybe even forking that to support RB Book Markdown and restrict some of these less wildy features. So that's one of them, and that would greatly increase accessibility. For me, it's not so bad because I'm so familiar with the markup. But when dealing with images or mathematical formulae, yeah, no, having WYSIWYG, even for me, I missed that, you know. So I get it, you know. WYSIWYG is worth one's time, you know. And the other thing, the thing about pulling changes back from RB Book Web. So basically what that means is currently you can write local files and push those files to web. But if you edit on web, which is possible, there's no way to pull those changes back and merge them without potentially losing your local stuff. So yeah, doing that would require to some extent implementing Git or a Git-like mechanism. The initial version of RB Book was a GitLab fork, but I abandoned that, I think wisely. Try to focus more on more innovative aspects of the project, not get too bogged down on Git and existing code bases. But I do miss Git now for that. It's not so easy because locally, you know, on web everything is split to the header, and locally you can have source files which have multiple headers. So this does require some thought. It's not just, you know, slapping Git into it and end of story. But yeah, it's not rocket science and could be inspired by Git.